Hello, welcome to this week's edition of the Record Rangers podcast in association with our sponsors, NordVPN, who can provide you with privacy online, leaving no digital footprint by hiding your IP address. It's just like wearing an invisibility cloak online. I'm joined by my colleague, Andy Newport. Andy, we'd love an invisibility cloak at times, wouldn't we?
You take the words right out of my mouth.
Maybe not just online. Maybe we get how are you after the weekend?
I'm very well, yeah, very good. It was an enjoyable game on Saturday. The kick-off time is a bit. There's a funny kick-off time. It's not quite as bad as those 8 o'clock ones we've had a few weeks ago. I'm sure the punters enjoy it. It gives them a few extra hours in the pub pre-match. But for the likes of you and I, diligent as we are, having to basically just kick about all Saturday, waiting for kick-off to come. It's a funny one, isn't it? But also I thought Rangers were good on Saturday. Given some of the plodding performances we've seen of late, that was a sort of welcome outbreak of sort of attacking verve. And what was your take on it?
Hi, well, look, obviously 4-1 winners home to Aberdeen. You would have taken that. Obviously, a bit your hand off. Rangers fans would have bit your hand off for that before the game. I think the key thing, you've touched on it there, after the St Mirren game the previous week, Danny Rowe was quick to say, look, it's all about results. It's not really about performances now with so few games left in the title race. However, he did say in Paisley that day that if they could put a performance together and get a result at the same time, then he would be really pleased. And I think he pretty much got that on Saturday night. I mean, it wasn't perfect. I'm sure we'll talk about the wee spell in the game where Rangers conceded their goal to Aberdeen. They brought it back to 2-1. So it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was like a gold star performance. However, at this stage of the season, Aberdeen, they've obviously got their troubles at near the bottom of the table, but it's still usually an awkward game at Ibrox because of the rivalry between the two clubs. And for Rangers to rack up 4 goals, improve the goal difference, never really looked like being in any danger of losing the game. As I say, I think this stage of the season, coming back off the St Mirren victory, which was obviously a lot different in terms of having to dig in and be resilient and get out of Paisley with a 1-0, terrible conditions. I thought Saturday was just about perfect for Danny Rowe in terms of what he got, in terms of goals and performance.
I mean, we all talk about that spell that you said in the second half, but when you think about it, there was chances missed. And again, that's the glaring thing when we spoke about coming out the ground after the game. It's like you've scored 4 goals and yet the strikers yet again haven't managed to get themselves on the score sheet. I've done a piece with Kel Lafferty. It'll be good in tomorrow's paper. You talk about a guy who sort of came alive in the sort of the business end of a season. The guy who his entire sort of Rangers story is all sort of built around the fact that he would grab these goals, these crucial goals in the title running. I mean, this is what Rangers are really crying out for right now. I mean, as much as they're winning, but just to have that insurance policy, just to have that luxury of knowing you've got a proper striker up there that when the big chances come, he's going to take them. And then, listen, we've spoke often enough on this podcast and Hotline Live and in the paper about Yusuf Chermiti and the enigma that he is. You see the Old Firm goals, you see the record in the big games. 8 of his 9 goals have come against Celtic or Hearts. But then he has 2 chances in that first half. A header from a corner that he just gets all wrong. It sort of comes off the wrong side of his head and flies over. Then that other chance where he's put through cleaning the goalkeeper. And he's got time to pick his spot, but finds the side netting. I mean, you don't want to pick holes in a performance like Saturday nights when you win so comfortably and you get yourselves back in the title race, and it does raise the hopes of the fans that this is a team that can maybe go all the way. But when you're starting just to think, where's the areas that need to be improved to make sure they get over the line?
Yep.
Is the centre forward still the area that needs to be to sort of really raise their game?
I think you're right. I think at this stage of the season in a title race, that probably is the time to nitpick, because as you say, it's going to be those kind of small margins, small percentages that might get you over the line, and I do think it's an issue. The lack of goals for Shamiti and Nadiri. As you see, even just saying there yourself, no, Shamiti 9 goals. And we know there have been big goals against Hearts and Celtic, but 9 goals for the season. Let's be honest, that's over the course of 4 or 5 games. He's got those goals. It's not enough for a Rangers number 9. I agree with you. I think the 2 chances he missed at the weekend, you can't have that in a title race. I mean, he's not hit the target with either of them. And you mentioned Kyle Lafferty there. You're totally right. I mean, he might not go down as like a big kind of Rangers legendary striker, but my God, for a couple of seasons when it came to the business end, he get big goals. He seemed to thrive on that. That
three in a row he scored in the final day to basically clinch Rangers titles, and this is Danny Rowe would bite your hand off for somebody that could come in and do that right now.
Exactly, and I suppose that's where you're looking for the players, whether it's Shamiti, Nadiri or somebody else, to really show their personality, show their character. They'll show that they're a guy who thrives on that kind of pressure, and also. No, you almost want players to step up and grab a title race, but by the scruff of its neck, and say, right, I'm going to be the guy that makes the difference in this running. I mean, look, Rangers obviously they get the 4 goals at the weekend, 4 different scorers, really good goals. So of course, Danny Rowe will be pleased with it, but he does need his strikers to be a bit more clinical. Not just strikers, I suppose you could argue wingers as well. Obviously, we'll go on to Mikey Moore, but he's got wide players there that need to start chipping in as well. I mean, on Saturday, I don't know what I'm assuming you'll agree, you were at the game with me, but they started well in the game, but there was a danger that they were just kind of starting to huff and puff a wee bit towards half time, and it was going to be one of those kind of frustrating afternoons where they kind of dominated possession and territory, but never really tested their keeper and couldn't get their noses in front. But Chukwueze comes up with a brilliant goal. It was a brilliant goal all round, but it was a great finish, the way he controlled it. His first league goal for the club. I mean, how crucial do you think that was at that time in the game?
Well, definitely. I mean, I think one of the key things for any Rangers team, but especially this Rangers team, and it's something we spoke about repeatedly, is the ability to control the crowd. And I think that this is there's definitely a hangover for the past, or scar tissue from the past, whatever you want to call it, where large sections of the Rangers faithful don't have any great trust in the team. It's almost as if they're waiting to be let down, and that's where the team have to show resilience. They have to show patience themselves. They have to hope that the fans can show a bit of patience. Because I think at that moment in time, I think Rangers they were in control. Listen, they were never under any danger. I mean, I think it's important to stress how poor Aberdeen were on the day. They offered absolutely nothing. Yeah. Even the goal that they scored in the second half is a gift from a Rangers point of view. So there was no real need for panic, but I think just because of what has gone on before so many times, this crowd has seen so many times, they're waiting for the team to sort of slip up. And once you get past that half an hour mark, and it wasn't as if they were at that point they were banging the door down. As I said, they had a couple of chances with Chermiti that they hadn't taken, and a couple other sort of half sniffs. So that goal was important. It was it settled the crowd down.
That was the difference between getting at half time, wasn't it? The crowd would have been angsty at half time if it had been 0-0 against a poor Aberdeen team in a game they dominate. That's how crucial these opening goals are.
I mean, I think there's even a sense of, even at half time, to only be 1-0 up, because as soon as the goal goes in, you could sense the relief and then the desperation for more. And
the atmosphere goes up.
Yeah, and they didn't quite deliver. And I think there's a danger at that point that things can go flat again. I mean, you only have to go back to the Old Firm game and see the risk of what happens when the team doesn't maintain levels. And even there was a sense of that when Aberdeen get back to 2-1. But I think the early goal from Moore, just after half-time, settles everyone down again. But what I think was encouraging for Danny Rowe was even at 2-1, at that point, I mean, those memories, those flashbacks to the Old Firm game are so raw.
Yeah.
You're thinking, goodness, are we going to see something similar? They're going to just lose their way again. And as I say, give up Aberdeen, who deserved nothing from the day because they offered nothing. But, if Rangers had sort of come off the tracks, they could have found themselves in trouble. They could have offered Aberdeen encouragement. I think what would encourage Danny Rowe is that they just get straight back on it. They obviously get the goal pretty soon after from Raskin. And at that point, the game was done. Aberdeen rallied a wee bit towards the end, but to once, I mean, it was Hail Mary stuff from them at times. I mean, they were just launching bodies forward, and it was no surprise to see, obviously, the Rangers score a fourth goal, really harshly disallowed for me. It's about 30 seconds, the handball against Connor Barnes, about 30 seconds before the ball hits the net that he has this ball. One, it's fired off him about 100 mile an hour, and two, Aberdeen actually pinched possession back at that point. So if that's not a new phase of play, I don't know what is. This is another one of these ones where the referees seem to be, well, I'm just going to say they're inconsistent. That is
looking for reasons to disallow goals.
Yeah, I mean, and I heard somebody say today the Rangers have had 20 goals chopped off this season. I mean, that's just remarkable. I mean, it's just, and it's, listen, I think there's a good deal of them that, you'll have to hold your hands up and say, yes, they were legitimate calls, but there's a good few of them that are really, really in the harsh side. And, no wonder that the club are obviously, we've discovered this week, they're trying to sort of sit down with all the other Premiership clubs and find some way forward to this, because, listen, it's not just Rangers that are suffering. You look up and down the league. St Mirren, I know, have had a terrible run of having goals chopped off. We seem to have week-to-week complaints from managers, from players. I don't like to criticise referees because they've got a hard enough job, and I like the fact that these guys are brave enough to go out there and everything that entails living in Scotland and the environment we have here at times. But I think we have to be doing more to help them, whether that's investing in a better standard of VAR, whether that's full-time officials. But listen, we can't. And I think it's incumbent in clubs now. They've been moaning and griping about this for long enough. Well, if you want change, you have to pay for it, and that's the only way forward as far as I can see.
What about Mikey Moore? You mentioned him there. He obviously got that second goal, great finish. He's another man of the match performance. He's without doubt Rangers Young Player of the Season. Some would argue he might be Rangers Player of the Season, even at 18 years old. Asked Danny Rowe the question post match about whether he could give the Rangers fans a bit of encouragement about the in terms of the chance of getting them back from Spurs next season on another loan. First of all, how impressed have you been with him this season? And secondly, can you give the Rangers fans any encouragement as to whether he'll be back next season? What do you think? What do you think the chances are?
Putting a lot of pressure on my shoulders there, Scott. Listen, well, one, to answer the first part, hugely impressed. I mean, listen, the thing that the first time I think I, like a lot of people, were kind of, first 5, 6, 7, 8 games of the season, you're going, I'm struggling to see where the hype is around this kid. Obviously not helped by the brand of football that the team was playing under Russell Martin at that time, how strict and how regimented it was. It felt like he was playing with shackles on, really. He was sort of locked out to the left-hand side and denied the ability to sort of do that sort of roaming that he likes to do. I think Danny Rowe came in and said, listen, shackles off, go and do what you want. Not a free roll, but listen, you're a player that takes risks, so go and take those risks. And I think that's made a world of difference to him. I remember, I think you were there with me as well, the day at Dens Park where he scored twice, I think it was, back in sort of, was it October time, November time?
Certainly scored once. Scored a goal just on the edge of the box, didn't he?
maybe I'm had it my head he scored 2. Maybe I'm wrong. And he came into the press room after the game, and where a lot of guys is sort of a lot of the new signings seem to be sort of a bit shell shocked by the reaction they'd had at times this season. I admitted they'd never seen anything like it. It'd taken them time to get used to it. He said something I've really heard from a player like, no, that's been brilliant. I've needed that kick up the arse, basically. It's going to do wonders for my mentality. This is what playing for a big club is. If you can't deal with it, then you're in your fold. And I think from that moment on, he has grasped the enormity of playing for Rangers. He's been one of the few guys, 18-year-old, youngest player in the squad. He's been a leader at 18. He's been a man amongst. At 18, he's been a man amongst men. And I think it's just so impressive. And his numbers. I said this on Hotline Live last night. I don't think his numbers are massive. I think that was maybe his 6th goal. You might correct me. I think it was his 6th goal this season. I think he's got a handful of assists as well.
Yeah.
But it's more about what he does for the team, the feeling he gives to the team, the energy he brings to the team. It's not something that you can measure in just goals and assists. I think I'll always go back to that game against Hibs around Christmas time at Ibrox, where Rangers had just sort of played themselves into a stalemate, a standstill. They were just knocking the ball back along the back line, into midfield, back to defence, going nowhere. And he was the guy, 18, going, give me the ball. I'm going to dribble. I'm going to take players on. I'm going to run at Hibs. Listen, he didn't score. I think Rangers won the game with a Manny Fernandez header from a free kick. But I just don't think Rangers were getting into the final third without him that night. And so, yeah, I think he's got a terrific future ahead of him. I think he's going to be a superstar, frankly. Whether Rangers get back next season, I'm really uncertain in that. I mean, I think a lot of people jumped on the quote. As I said, you spoke to Danny Roll after the game. I spoke to Mikey Moore for the Monday papers after the game, and I sort of asked him, like, will your future depend on what happens to Spurs? And he said, yeah, I mean, basically, I've still not really get any clear indication yet. I need to go back and speak to people at Spurs. I love it here. If the decision is to send me back here, I'd love to come back. But I think people have jumped in that and read a bit much into it. I think it's still undecided. And listen, we still don't know. Well, frankly, we don't know what division Spurs are going to be playing the next season, because right now there's every chance that they end up getting relegated because they are in a tailspin. And then, then we don't know who the manager's going to be. A new manager might come in and go, this is a kid I want to build my team around. Or he might come in and go, he's definitely got a bright future, but he needs another year of football under his belt. As I say, he's only 18. He's not 19 until the summer. The Premier League's still a step beyond where he's at. Right now, I think the likelihood is he goes back to Spurs. I think Rangers would have to put on a really attractive sales pitch to get him back. Listen, undoubtedly the move's been great for him, but Spurs might decide, right, they want me to go to another level of football. If they're going to put him out on loan, they might want me to go to a bigger league, a more technical league. But listen, it really comes down to, if they end up in the Championship, I think you can bet your bottom dollar they're going to be using him to get them out of there.
It's no what we want to hear, but I can see it being a summer saga. The Mikey Moore to Rangers story. I tend to agree. I mean, look, if Spurs go to the Championship, he'll definitely go back there and play. You would imagine, the cuts and that they would need to make. With the drop in finances going to the Championship, I think it would be huge. If they stay up, I think they're about a point. Another man looks like they're going to get rid of Igor Tudor and get another manager in between now and the end of the season. You'd imagine that will change again in the summer. But if they stay in the Premier League and they get a new manager, a lot of talk, it could be Pochettino, for instance, once he's finished with the USA at the World Cup. You would imagine, and the reason I say it would be a saga, is you can imagine Mikey Moore will definitely go back there, you would think, for pre-season. It'll be a chance for him to impress a new manager. And Rangers will probably need to play the long game with it if they really want him, because it might be a case of a new manager putting a Spurs squad together, having a really good look at Mikey Moore, needing them for pre-season, friendlies or whatever, but it might be late in the window when the squad's put together, a kind of new look squad's put together at Spurs.
A bit like the Ryan Kent situation a few years ago when Rangers eventually had to pay £7 million, but they had to wait several weeks to get him once he'd been away with Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp in America.
It'll be late before Spurs probably decide, right, do we keep him for this Premier League season where he's maybe on the bench quite a lot.
The thing as well, Scott, is that being a young player, being a homegrown player, he doesn't have to go into their 25-man squad that they have to register. It's a bit like the UEFA squad here. Like, they don't have. They can register him at any time. They don't have to make a decision on being in that 25-man squad. So
I think if Rangers fans are looking for positives, I do think if it comes down to either. If it's going to be, if he's not going to get a game with Spurs, I don't think Spurs will put him out anywhere else if Rangers are interested. I
think Champions League football would be a big lure, a big weapon in Rangers' armoury in terms of negotiations. If they could say, listen, he's got a league title winner, and that would he'd obviously have to win the league title this season. But if they could say, listen, he's got one league winners medal under his belt and the most intense, fiercest title race we've seen in years. So that'll do wonders for his experience, and then you can throw in right, and he's going to get 8 games at a really high level in the Champions League. That might help convince him.
That would be massive. But I think even European football and the fact that if Mikey Moore's got a couple of options on the table, because of the experience he's had at Rangers, because he now knows the club, he's got a relationship with the fans, brilliant relationship with the manager, that would tick a lot of boxes in terms of where to go for next season. If it's a choice between Rangers and just say high-end championship like a Sheffield United or a Norwich or something, for instance, I think Mikey Moore himself would look at that and say, no, I'd rather go back to Rangers. Do you know what I mean?
I think that is the important thing. It's the choice. If it's another loan, and especially if you can throw in the lure of Champions League football, I think Rangers would be his first choice. I think he spoke so warmly about the club, and he's been sincere with how warmly he's spoken about the club, the fans, the manager, his teammates. But the thing I think that maybe counts against Rangers is the boy's own ambitions, the boy's own belief in himself, because clearly he thinks he's got it. I mean, he came up here talking about wanting to be one of the best players in the world. He thinks he's ready now, and I think if Spurs were to give him any encouragement, as in, okay, you'll be involved next year in the Premier League. Obviously, last year he was in and around the Europa League squad when he got to the final. I don't think he played much in terms of domestically, certainly in the Premier League. I think if they said to him, you can be involved in the Premier League squad, I don't see him turning that down. I think he thinks he's ready to play in the biggest league in the world, and I think that is the thing that will ultimately count against Rangers. If he thinks he can get a sniff of playing first-team football at Spurs, I would think that would be something he'd feel that he was ready to have a shot at 19. Which, fair play to the kid if that is what he believes. As I say, I think he's destined for huge things. Just judging what I've seen so far, I think he's only going to get better. Touch wood, I really hope he stays clear injury. If he can add he's obviously still young. He has his up and downs moments. But I think right now we're seeing more and more up and less down. So I think he's destined for big things.
Just on that, in terms of the Premier League, one kind of slight fear I've got, and I might be this might be a bit of a wild theory, but he's a big Millwall fan, Mikey Moore. He's obviously a London boy. Millwall are in the mix, to get promoted. Alec Neil, Scottish manager, keeps his eye on Scottish football. Rangers and Celtic will know exactly how Mikey Moore's done at Ibrox. If Millwall were to go up either automatically or via the playoffs, you'd think Millwall would look at him, knowing he's a Millwall fan. As I say, knowing he's a London boy. For Spurs' point of view, we'd maybe think, get him out, keeps him close by, get some Premier League football. Obviously, going to be able to play against Spurs, but that's not really that happens all the time. That might be a slight concern. I think Rangers fans might not want Millwall to go up in case that could happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're right. All I'd say to that is, I think you've seen it enough with Rangers young players going out on loan. If you're, developing players to come and play for your team, I think you have to choose wisely in terms of who you send them out to. And I haven't seen an awful lot of Millwall this season, but I imagine them going into the Premier League are going to be pretty robust. They're not going to be pretty expansive. They're going to be pretty back to front. They really get room for. I'm trying to convince myself here. They really get room for a young 18-year-old up and down winger. Is he really going to be? Is he really going to play every week in that scenario? I'm not so sure. I think maybe the Rangers is probably the best place for him. Playing every week, playing in big games, pressure, 50,000 fans every week, playing the right brand of football. Yeah, I think it's an easier case to make for him to come back to Rangers than to go to the Den.
That's the least convincing argument I've ever heard.
Okay, I'm not doing the negotiations, so there we go.
Just listen, to kind of finish it off. I mean, we need to look at the actual title race. Now, I mean, we probably thought. I've said this before. I think I said this last week in the pod after the 2 game with Celtic. It just kind of felt like Rangers were out of it. It was going to be between Hearts and Celtic. Maybe not in terms of points per se, but the kind of psychological blow of losing those 2 goals at home against Celtic. But obviously Hearts defeat at Kilmarnock. Celtic lose at the weekend, I think unexpectedly at Tannadice. Suddenly Rangers are second, 3 points behind, 7 games to go. I've heard some people in the last 24 hours, ex-players, Kevin Thompson, Chris Boyd, saying they think Rangers are now going to win it. I mean, after the 4-1 against Aberdeen, where does this leave Rangers' title challenge? What do you think? Are Rangers now favourites to go and win this?
Listen, I think they're in a better place than they were 2 weeks ago, as you say. Listen, I think that's what you say there about the psychological aspect of it. I think that's the key to it. I mean, it's funny, because all of us have been saying there's going to be twists and turns because none of the teams are good enough to go in prolonged, stretches of wins. We know that they're going to have bumps in the road, and it's funny that I think all of us, even as journalists, as fans, as players, as coaches, you get caught up in the immediacy of the results, and you tend to jump to sort of make immediate judgments on what we've seen, and which is strange because we've all acknowledged that there's going to be twists and turns, and I think so. These bumps in the road that the teams are suffering aren't unexpected. We've all predicted that they're going to suffer them. So I think what's key is whoever manages the highs and lows of it. What I'd say in a Rangers point of view is I don't think Danny Rowe has ever really shown. I mean, I know our columnist Chris Sutton accused him of sort of being a bit talking too much and getting a bit overconfident at times. I must say, I don't really see that. I think he attempted a wee bit of mind games. Maybe it didn't work ahead of the Old Firm game, but I think he's always, after a defeat, refused to be too low. I think at times, even on Saturday after the win there, he wasn't making any grand boasts about where he was. I think he's, again, just one game at a time sort of mantra that we hear a lot. What I would say is I think, like said Derek McInnes, I think Derek McInnes has done exactly the same. Martin O'Neill's attempted it as well. So what's key is that whoever, the team that wins the league will be the one who handles and it's an obvious point, but it's not about handling the highs. It's whoever handle the lows the best, whoever will able to shake them off and get them to go again. Listen, I think Hearts have done that terrifically well. Listen, they've creaked a wee bit recently. I think it's I think they'd only won 4 or 9 before, so it's maybe 4 out of 10. 5 out of 10 was at the weekend was a 5th win in 10 games. So they have been up and down a wee bit, but when they've had a bad result, they've responded to it. So have Rangers and so have Celtic at times. So it's about whoever can, brush off the defeats, the draws, and get going again. Which is why I still think, because I think all of them have done that. And it wouldn't surprise me if it was Rangers to slip up next week against Dundee United, or if it was, Hearts when they go to Livingston. I think I still think it's too close to call. It's fascinating. The Rangers, I think Rangers are trending in the right direction, but then we spoke often enough about this team having a weak chin, being psychologically weak at times. I think that the January signings have made an improvement, but they're not there yet. They're not a team yet you can hang your hat on and say they're championship material. So I still think there's going to be a few weeks yet before you can get you can be confident in saying what way it's going to go. I don't know about you. How do you see it? I mean, are you seeing signs of things to be, if you're a Rangers fan, to be hopeful?
You dodged that question brilliantly. That was superb.
Take a career in politics, you man.
Tell you what I think. I think Rangers have obviously put themselves right back in it. In terms of being favourites, I think Hearts are still favourites, and I'll tell you why. Rangers they've got Falkirk away to come before the split, and then we're pretty certain that after the split, Rangers are going to have Hearts and Celtic away, and that's tough on them. No, when you think at this stage in the season, I know. Listen, that was always going to be the kind of schedule, but tough game. So I think Hearts just having that slight points advantage and knowing getting into the split, Rangers have got the away games. And I know. Listen, Hearts will have tough away games as well. Still to come. They won't get it easy at Livy next time out either, even though Livy look all but down. That might be a danger if Livy suddenly play without any kind of pressure. I think Hearts are still slight favourites. I think Celtic, I don't want to say they're out of it, but I think they're really struggling after the weekend. I mean, watching that Celtic performance.
I think they've got no room for error now. I think I don't necessarily think you have to win the Old Firm game, but I think both teams have to beat Hearts.
Yeah.
To have any shot. But I think both teams can afford a draw in the Old Firm at Parkhead, and I think it wouldn't surprise me if that ended up a draw. But I think both teams know that they're going to have to beat Hearts, and obviously Celtic. I think they host Hearts at Parkhead after the split, don't they? So, I think that's I think that's the important one. That they both have to try and knock Hearts out of this any way they can.
Yeah, right. I mean, that Celtic performance at the weekend. I mean, when they go to Dens Park in their next game, I mean, unless Celtic up that performance tenfold, I mean, they're going to struggle at Dens Park as well. I mean, they were woeful on Sunday, and Dundee.
They've just got so little. I mean, you talk about Rangers at the top end; they're not scoring goals, but at least they've got a presence at the top end. Celtic don't even have that. And if it's not Benjamin Negan basically scoring them goals, then they really do look shy in that front.
Yeah, I mean, they look weak defensively as well. I think Celtic, and I think the big thing watching Celtic on Sunday was, and it's very, very rare that I've said this of any Celtic team, it feels like in the last decade, was the lack of hunger and appetite and application. I mean, it feels like you never see that for a Celtic team that's got guys like Callum McGregor and Kieran Tierney and Liam Scales in it. No, guys that know what it's all about. That really took me. I know people are saying, bad pitch and Celtic haven't been great for them, so maybe you could expect it. I mean, I think Chris Sutton was saying the TV it wasn't a big surprise. To me, that was a big surprise with everything that's at stake against a Dundee United team.
Especially the way that Celtic, when you talk about a lack of hunger, that is not something I don't think you could throw at this Celtic team when you consider the amount of points that they've snatched from losing positions, or the amount of wins that they've grabbed in the last throws of games. I mean, that has been the one thing that's kept them in this title race, is that they're desired not to be beaten or not to drop points. So
I think having lost 8 games now, and as I say, Dundee away next, I think they're struggling. So I do think Hearts and Rangers are kind of in the driving seat, but I just make Hearts slight favourites, just because of those post-split fixtures.
Big players coming back as well. Obviously, Shankland back at the weekend. Cammy Devlin back. You've got Stuart Finlay to come back. A few other boys as well. I mean, Hearts are only getting stronger as the title race finishes. Comes to a conclusion. I mean, like Danny Rowe did make a point of praising the Rangers physios and saying like he's got 23, 24 guys fit right now, which is remarkable. And it is, when you consider, Rangers injury troubles at times this season. I must admit, I think this is, the Rangers medical team have been, pilloried at times over the last couple of years. But this season, whatever you want to say, whatever faults Rangers have had, it's not been down to a lack of fitness or a lack of fit bodies available. I mean, they've had a good run of that. I mean, it's been other aspects that have let them down this year.
And as you touched on at the top, I suppose the slight worry for Rangers is the fact that the strikers aren't scoring. I mean, I said on here last week, that clean sheets might end up winning Rangers the title, because I feel as if Fernandes and Giga are in such good form. But Hearts are doing that as well, to their credit. I mean, 4 1-0 wins at Tynecastle in a row. I mean, that is like, they deserve huge credit for that in the midst of a title race. They have that kind of solidity and resilience, and to get through those games, tough games, and just nick a goal and keep the back door shut.
But just to go back to that topic, I mean, just about the strikers, but I mean, is there something to be said, right? Okay, Chermitty's hot and cold, and more cold than hot, to be fair, but the games he's been hot in are the games that are coming up. The games when there's something on the line. I mean, this is what Rangers have to hope. They have to hope that this is when he catches fire.
This is it.
Basically.
Yeah, is he going to turn up at Tynecastle and Parkhead again and score? So that's a nice way to end. We've kind of went full circle there for the start to the.
It's almost as if it's landed, man.
Exactly. It's going to be interesting, and we'll be with you every step of the way. That's us for our week. Thanks again to the sponsors, NordVPN. You'll be able to listen to this episode and others on YouTube, the Apple Podcast app, and Spotify. So please like and review. It helps us spread the pod far and wide. Also keep up to date, obviously, with all the latest news coming out of Ibrox at dailyrecord.co.uk and in the paper. For myself and Andy, we thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.